These are the fundamental React stuff that I learned recently. I will try my best to explain it in a very as simple as possible way for you guys to understand. So let's go. React is a JavaScript based library where you code the components individually and combine it into one file. It mixes HTML and JavaScript together. It makes coding more time effective and more cleaner. I will go through how you can set up your first React app at the end of the video, as you might want to know how the code is structured in each file. Then you can understand why I do what I do at the setup. Before proceeding, I want to explain one small thing to make this whole video more understandable. Each file should contain the codes for one component, like maybe one section of the website or one small project. So I'll refer to this as file or component interchangeably, so keep this in mind. So the files are able to interact with one another. The main.jsx is like the granddaddy of React, where the code of the app will be directed into this file. As you can see, in this file, the app component is imported. But where the app component is from? The app component is exported from this app.jsx file, where the codes of the component is directed into. It is like the daddy of React. Then you might be asking, where the codes of the components is exported from? The component is exported from their individual JSX file, where you code the components in each of those files. It is like the children of React. You can then import whichever tools and files into the component file to help you code the components. The component is called using this function. Note that the first letter of the name is capitalized. There are 5 parts of the layouts of each component file. The first part, import. The second part, the function component. The third part, the backend, aka the middle end, because it is technically the backend of the front end. So it's technically in the middle end of backend and front end. And the fourth part, return. And the fifth part, export default component. This is what the layout will look like in the code editor. But when you are coding or thinking of what to code, the steps may look something like this. Step 1, importing necessary tools and stuff. Step 2, writing the function component part. Step 3, writing the export default component part. Step 4, writing the return stuff to know what you want. Then step 5, coding the backend or middle end. I will go more in depth into each step. Step 1, importing necessary tools and stuff. Usually you might want to import files such as styling files or the component files, etc. Or use functions that React have given you that you will use, such as useState, which I'll talk about later. Then you will use the imported stuff inside the current file that you are coding. The syntax of importing will look something like this. Import whatever you want from wherever the thing is. For example, import component from ./component.jsx. Keep this in mind. Or another example, import useState from React. Step 2, writing the function component part. This is usually given when you start setting up your React app. As you start your project, the component name will be app. But if you want to be special, you can just change the name of the component to whatever you want. But just remember to capitalize the first letter of the component name so that the React knows it is the component rather than the HTML element. You will also need to remember to change the component name in the export default component part, which brings us to the third step. Step 3, writing the export default component part. This is also given when you first set it up. You don't really have to change anything, at most it's just the name. This is important. Without this step, your component will not be rendered in the main file. After exporting, you can then import it into another file using the component name. For example, in another file, you can write import component from ./component.jsx or whatever you name the file. Step 4, writing the return stuff to know what you want. And step 5, coding the backend or the middle end. I want to explain both steps together because it is heavily linked to each other and it will also make better sense. Everything in the return function is what will be produced in the website or localhost. You can put regular HTML function in there. But unlike regular HTML file, you can also include JavaScript function inside the HTML text. The JavaScript function will look something like this. Curly bracket function, curly bracket, which when put in the HTML tag will look something like this. Then this function will be defined usually at the top of the return function, which is step 5, coding the backend. Defining it is like programming a regular JavaScript. It either has the following functions: constant function you want, equals to condition, arrow, the program it executes, or function you want, condition, then the program it executes. You can also activate the function when there is an event that happened, like clicking or when you are typing. For example, you could have a button that says press to say hi. Then in the first part of the text, you can put on click equals the curly bracket function. Then you put the function part at the top. To set up your first React project, first, create a new folder where the project will be stored. Next, open the folder. Then, open the command center with Ctrl Grave, which is usually at the top left hand corner of the keyboard. In the command, type in npm create vid at latest. Then type in whichever project name you want. I called it my React app. Pick React, then JavaScript. Then follow the 3 steps that he have given you. And tada! You have your very own React app. At the side, you have many different stuff. As a beginner, I primarily only use the source folder where all the React components coding will be happening. In the source folder, there are 5 things. Assets folder, where you store your videos, images, etc. app.jsx and .css, JSX meaning HTML and JavaScript combined together. Index.css, where you do the styling, and lastly, main.jsx, which I don't really touch. I like starting my projects from scratch, so in app.jsx, I will clear out the unnecessary stuff as shown. The reason why I leave out this empty text is because React only allows you to return one component. So if you want to return more than one text or more than one element, you have to surround them in this empty text, also called the fragments. Now, React will think there is one component. Very dumb, I know. Do also remove the use state line. I forgot to do so. So yeah, these are the React fundamentals that I learned. Anyways, that's my opinion. Bye.